This is Dan Bolen, and I'm the host of the podcast, The Courage to Be Courageous, where people come from all walks of life to listen to those who have embraced their fear and used courage to get through it. And so we welcome all of you to our 2024 season. I think we have some amazing stories that you're going to find, I think, challenging and riveting and powerful in your own life as well, too. I want to encourage all of you that would like to contact me personally. My email address is danbolen, DANBOLEN @cox.net. And let me know the types of things that you would like to hear on our podcast for 2024. We have some powerful guests lined up, some amazing stories you're going to hear. We also want to encourage any that are fighting for LGBTQ rights to contact me and let me know if you would like to do an interview with me. As you know, I support 3 organizations, the SAGE Project, Trevor International, and Outright International as well, that are fighting for gay rights worldwide. I think we have a fascinating guest today. We're going international all the way to India and all the way to England with an incredible story. And I'm going to introduce my guest right now. I always have to make sure I get his name right. Monish Modi. Monish Modi. Am I close?
I think, that attempt was very close, and I really appreciate that. So, hello, Dan. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I think this is going to be a fascinating story of Monish, who was raised in India, and how he was able to use his cricket career, playing professional cricket. And we're going to learn a lot about his story and his coming out and what things are happening in India today as well. So, Monish, welcome to my podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. Tell us a little bit about your story of how you got into cricket and how you were accepted and getting into England and opening the first gay cricket club. So I think it's a fascinating story. So inform our listeners of how that happened.
So first of all, good afternoon to all the listeners. And thank you, Dan, for inviting me to take a part in your podcast. So it's a pleasure for me. Now, my story started from in India, when I was born in a cricket fanatic family where every cricket match, my mother, my father, they were all getting nervous watching the game, supporting India. And then my father was a sportsman as well in his university days. So cricket came in my blood. And I grew up in the suburbs where we used to play cricket in the evening, street cricket. And then in the mornings, I used to go to academy. And then I did my education in India, and I took up as a cricket as a professional. And then I got a contract from a Bank of India first, and I started playing for them. And then I made my way to a Gujarat Ranji team as like a startup and as a newcomer. And then the doors opened up after my education, after doing my master's degree, and I decided to move to UK to make up a better career in my professional manner. And after moving to UK in 2007, I moved to UK in 2004. So first 2 years I did not play any cricket, just wanted to build up my career. And I got into a relationship with a lovely man called Graham, and he was not into sports. But he read somewhere about there is an LGBT cricket club called Graces. And I joined them, and from day one, they welcomed me and made me one of them. And that helped me a lot to become a proud gay man I am today.
So my question is, you were raised in India where obviously homosexuality was not accepted at the time. And you mentioned to me you had fear, not so much shame about yourself, but you had fear. What was your fear about?
My fear was about coming out, my fear was about what if somebody finds out that I'm a different from others. At the same time, I was playing cricket, and I just thought, if anybody finds out I'm gay, I may not even get picked in the team. And the cricket has been my first love. So I was very nervous about that. And I remained in a closet and I played cricket. Wish there was anybody at the time I could speak to, which they have it in India now. There are a lot of LGBT organizations who can provide you that support.
But not back then for you.
No, it
You
wasn't
didn't have
that
anyone
for-
you could come to and to talk about your
I had no
sexuality.
friends or I had no friends or family who I could walk up and talk about that. And but that was a part of the life, and I had to go through that.
Now, tell us, you got married. Tell me, in India, it's arranged marriage. Tell me how that works. And you married, and I understand you had a daughter from that. Explain that process to us, how that happened.
So I had no pressure to get married because as I was studying and I was doing my master's in business administration, and my younger sister was getting married, and it was an arranged marriage for her. And at the same time, my mother was suffering from liver cirrhosis. But as you might know, our Indian weddings goes on for a week at least, and there are a lot of different functions and different stuff. And I went to attend my sister's marriage because I was studying in Madras, which was Madras, and now it's called Chennai. And my hometown is called Ahmedabad. So 4 days before my sister's marriage, my mother had a paralysis stroke, and she was taken into hospital. And I went to visit her on the next day, and she was in an intensive care unit. And my elder brother and my father were with me as well. And the one thing, my mother, she was on oxygen, and the doctor who was my friend, and he said to me, as my nickname, he used to call me Mania, and he said to me, Mania, I can't promise anything this time that your mother may survive. So my mother said to me that I wish I could have seen you married. And that was the thing got me emotional. And as I came out of ICU, my brother and my father asked me, what do you think of fulfilling your mother's wish? And I had no answer, yes or no. I was just thinking about fulfilling my mother's probably last wish. So within 4 days, I got married. I remember my mother was allowed to come to my wedding only for 15 minutes in wheelchair. Normally, you are supposed to be smiling at your wedding, but I was in tears because no one wants to see their mother like that in the wheelchair. And yeah, so within 4 days, I got married. But miraculously, 6 months after, my mother was all fine. And I used to look at her and say, Mom, you have messed up my life. And yeah, and then after I got married, the family pressure of having children, and we planned a baby. And then in 2004, my daughter was born on December 8th. And she's 19 now. She lives in India with my ex-wife, and I am very proud of her.
And I think I know the Indian culture is total respect for your parents. And when they ask for a wish, you do everything they can to be able to make their wish come true. They're very much respected. They're elders. You don't go against your mom and dad. You really want to accommodate them. So there was pressure put on you to be able to give your mother her greatest last wish. Do you think that was the thing that forced you into a marriage, primarily?
Yeah, absolutely. Because our Indian culture is all about fulfilling your parents and your elders' wishes. and that's how you show them that you are a good son. And when I realized that it was could be my mother's last wish, I had no other option than fulfilling that.
But you knew at the time that you married your wife, you knew that you were gay. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had known I was gay since the age of 15 when I was watching a Marlon Brando's movie called The Last Tango in Paris. And you are in that age when you're going through and you are getting into realization of your real sexuality. Because I had no girlfriend at the time either. So since then, I had an attraction for a mature older man. So when I was asked to get married, I just buried my all gay feelings. And I thought that is it. I will never be able to live my gay life.
How did that make you feel at the time? Did you feel lost? Did you feel desperate?
I was totally lost. I felt like I'm going into a cage. But then the other side, you think about fulfilling your mother's last wish. And our culture, like we discussed before, it's all about satisfying and making yourself look good to your parents who can be very proud of you.
And then you eventually moved to England. You moved to the UK. And tell us about how you and your wife separated, which ultimately ended in a divorce. Give us some insight on that part.
So I got married in 2003, and then I went back to Chennai to finish up my degree. And after that, British government in 2004, they started inviting highly skilled people from all over the world. And I took up that opportunity to move to UK, and I got invitation later in August 2004. And same time, my ex-wife was pregnant with my daughter, and but she was not allowed by her doctor to travel with me. So we decided that I will, because that was a certain period time that I had to be in UK. Otherwise, my invitation would get cancelled. So we both of us decided that I would go and her family and my family will look after her in India for birth of our first child. And in this, so 4 months after my daughter was born in December 2004, and then 6 months after, just 5 days before, my daughter and my ex-wife arrived to UK, and that was the best birthday gift I've ever had. So seeing my daughter first time, and then I was working full time, and my ex-wife was looking after my daughter at home, and we were raising our children. But my ex-wife did not like living in UK, so she she asked me if we both can move back to India, and I said I want to. I moved here, and I want to live in UK, and I want to build my career. So on that term, we both decided to get separated, and she asked me if she can have our daughter, and to fulfill her wish, I allowed that. And our separation went on for 5 years because both of our families were putting pressure on both of us, saying that, oh, everything can work out, this and that. And but we both stayed with the same term, and I got divorced after my mother died in 2012. My father came to UK to visit me, and then he helped me to get that divorce.
And let's talk about your father, because your wife and you ended up divorcing. She had your daughter back in India, but your father came over and you did come out to your father as gay. I think this is a very interesting story. Tell us, I think you went to a bar and I remember you saying you had a lump in your throat and you couldn't get the words out. I know
That is
that
absolutely
feeling.
right.
So
That is absolutely right.
tell us how that
So
happened.
after my mother passed away, my father came to visit me to UK, and then he was discussing about my separation, and I said to him, I really need a divorce because I'm not the right guy. And at that time, I did not tell him that I'm gay on that conversation. And he said, that's absolutely fine. I'll help you to get divorced. But as soon as I was getting divorced in those certain days while my father was there, um, my father has started looking for another bride for me. And some of my friends in UK and myself, I thought they actually encouraged me and said to me, look, you need to end this misery. This is the right time to come out to your father. And I always believed that coming out, you need a reason to anybody to tell that, yes, I'm a proud gay man. And that was the reason I thought, because I did not want to get married again and live that life in a closet. So I took a week to prepare myself, and then it was in my mind that I would take dad out for a walk somewhere in Hyde Park in London. So I took him out for a shopping first, and then it got dark. So the Hyde Park idea I had to cancel. And then while we were walking on a Westminster Bridge, which I was showing him around House of Lords from outside, and he said, first time in my life, he said to me, can we have a drink? And because our culture, you always have that gap between father and son in communication because you respect them a lot. And in that term, and first time when he asked me to have a drink, I thought this is the right time. So we walked over to Waterloo Station, and there was a new sports bar was open. And I remember it was in September, and there was a West Ham Arsenal soccer match was going on. It was quiet bar, and I my dad's favorite drink was a double black label with a Coke, and I got him that, and I got myself a red wine, and then I started telling him about Dad, thank you for helping me to get divorced, and I really appreciate that because I wanted to build up that conversation to
Yes.
tell him that I am a proud gay man. So he said to me when I said that thank you for helping me to get divorced, and he said, look, you're my son, and I'll do anything for you. So then it came into my throat, and I said, now I'll tell him. So then I said, Dad, I want to tell you something else. And Dad said, okay, go ahead and tell me. So I said, Dad, you know I love playing cricket. And so instead of telling Dad I'm gay, I just stopped myself and I said, Dad, you know I love playing cricket and I have a dream to play cricket all over the world. And he said, this is whatever you want to do, fulfill all your wishes. So then the next thing I wanted to tell him something, and then I said something else. And then I said, and I started sweating in a hot weather, sorry, in a cold weather. And I said, Dad, there's one thing I want to tell you. And if you don't like it, please don't tell anyone else. So he said, what is it? So I said, Dad, the reason why I can't get remarried because I'm gay. And there was a 10 seconds pause. And I have a silly humor. And I said, does he know what gay is? And he did. And he did knew. And he said to me, I'm very proud of you. You're my son and you will always be my son. But if I can ask you for a favor, that whenever you come to India, please don't tell anyone because of my social status in India. And as I was living in UK, I wasn't visiting India much. So I was very happy that it was like taking a monkey and that burden off your shoulder.
Oh, yes. And that took a lot of courage on your part to be able to do that. And
And I had a great support from friends because some of my friends really straight away told me on my face that this is the right time. You must tell your father.
And I think that, again, shows a lot of courage on your part, too. And to be accepted by your father, even though in Indy it's not considered to be acceptable, your father accepted you who you authentically are. And I think that's a great gift that your dad gave you, and a great gift that you gave him by coming out who you authentically are. I think that's a powerful comment as well. So let's talk about, I want to talk about graces, because you've obviously played in different parts of the world, cricket, played professionally. I know we're going to talk about, you were interviewed with CNN and also Sky Radio, Sky Sports. I was able to pull up the information, fascinating background of how you were able to take cricket to another level for the LGBT community. Tell us how you got connected with Graces and how you ended up becoming the captain.
So, so when I moved to UK in 2004, I moved to a town called Hemel Hempstead, and I did play some cricket, and then I moved to London in 2007, and I got into a relationship with a lovely man called Graham. And Graham was a very much Londoner, and he read about a little column about Grace's Cricket Club in one of the London magazines. And he knew how much I loved playing cricket. And he said to me, "You have moved to London now. Would you consider playing for a Grace's Cricket Club, which is the only LGBT cricket club in the world at the time?" So I contacted them through emails, and they invited me to join at one of their pre-season training at the Lord's Cricket Ground, which is actually a mecca of cricket.
Very big, yes.
In North London. And I went to the first pre-season training, and they were all welcoming. It was just great. They just made me feel like you're one of us. And end of the day, it was about playing cricket as well, not compromising the level of playing cricket. And over the years, just them being around me, it wasn't like they were giving me counseling or anything else. It was just having them around me made me feel very confident about myself, made me feel very proud, a gay man. And then in 2018, I got an opportunity to take up a captaincy for the season of 2019. And that was the first time after a decade Gracies entered into a league cricket, because from 2008 till 2018, they were only playing a friendly matches. So it was my first year as a captain. I was very nervous, thinking that what if we get relegated or if we don't do well, because we have entered into the league cricket after a decade. And but the boys had been great. I had a huge amount of support from my deputies, players. They were extremely talented, and we won at the end of the season. We won the league title with 100 points margin. So I was very proud as a captain. And then sadly in 2020, COVID arrived. So all the sports got interrupted for, how whole world got interrupted with COVID.
Yes.
So we just had a little last 2-3 months with the COVID regulations. We had a few matches. And in 2021 at beginning, my boyfriend at the time, Simon, he was diagnosed with a myeloma. So we both decided it would be unfair of me staying as a captain while he's going through the treatment, because we all know that however we love our sports, because there are times the family and your loved ones comes before that. So I stepped down as a captain, to be with him, um, just to be around him while he was having a treatment. He still encouraged me to play cricket, and I still played cricket that season. He used to come and watch me while he was having treatment and stuff like that.
So that's interesting. I want to read something from Sky Sports. And it makes a comment here when he was interviewing you. He said, so what's cricket like for the LGBTQ plus community? Sky Sports is giving athletes, coaches, and others support who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender the opportunity to share their experiences, discuss the challenge they face, and give their views on the progress that's being made on inclusion. Tell us a little bit more about that interview with Sky Sports and how that came about.
Every year, England Cricket Board, in the month of August, they do a Pride Month because the London Pride is at the time as well. And they encourage all the international players from England, also the county players, to wear rainbow laces in the support of Stonewall, and also encourage them to use a rainbow stumps while they're playing cricket. So it's all in the support of LGBT community. So what Sky Sports does, which is our biggest sports channel in England, and what they do is they cover up in August month lot of LGBT sportsmen. And I remember in 2019, they were doing stories and cover-ups on a different proud LGBT player from. They were playing for their local cricket clubs, either in Leeds or somewhere in the Midlands or in Birmingham. And so they wanted to do this for whole weekend, and they contacted our media officer at Gracie's and particularly asked to cover up my story, as they found out through CNN and somewhere else that the career I had back in India, and they wanted to finish that weekend with a huge story, which they called it. I don't see myself as a huge story.
Well, you have a very fascinating one, I can say.
That is very kind of you. And so they contacted me, and just like you, they interviewed me.
So CNN wanted to do that because they did the interview before Sky Sports. Is that correct?
Yes.
And tell me why CNN wanted to do it with the LGBT community and why they chose you to do that.
So CNN was covering a Cricket World Cup in a summer of 2019, and they found out there is only LGBT cricket club at the time was in London, and it was a Graces. So they contacted our media officer, and they came to one of our match, actually, a league match in North London in a place called Botany Bay. And they just wanted to hear all our stories, because not only me, there are a lot of players who plays for Gracies have a very different stories from a different diverse cultures. And they all wanted to talk about that. And they wanted to send the news and the message out to the rest of the world that how much you love cricket, and you can be proud of yourself and play for Graces.
Mm-hmm. And when you were playing these other teams in cricket, your opponents, who are primarily, most of them, I'm assuming, heterosexual, did they accept you knowing that you were a gay cricket team? Were they accepting of you?
So most of the teams, especially when you play in a league, they always do research, like we do as well, just to find out their strength and weaknesses. And most of them all knew we were the only LGBT cricket club, and they were all fine with that. There were not even a banters about anything to do with LGBT. There were a lot of other banters, which is a part of the sports. But I have to tell you, cricket is a gentleman's sport. And and it's in my blood, and we have had no homophobic comments. We have never had it, and we still don't have any homophobic comments.
Well, that's encouraging to know that as well. And in that way, it was a gentleman's sport. They treated you as equal in a sense, I would say. Would that be correct? They treated you as an equal cricket player.
Absolutely. Sometimes you do get one odd comment on a social media, like on a Twitter, on our Grace's pages. But I have to comment on Grace's whole management team, which is from the media or the welfare officers and the chairperson. They are always open about giving the education to the people who make that comment, and they always invite them to come and watch our cricket matches. And if you have anything, come and speak to us. So, which takes a lot of courage.
Yes, it does take a lot of courage there as well. It takes courage for your whole cricket team to be able to do that as well.
It does indeed.
So tell us a little bit more about Rainbow Laces, which I think is really an encouraging story. Tell us how Rainbow Laces, and I saw a picture on when I researched you about everybody having rainbow laces on. Tell us how that happened.
So we wear rainbow laces in a support of a Stonewall, and also a support for a whole LGBT community. I remember I started wearing it from a season of 2018, and since then I still wear it. So I as part of my story that I don't play for. I only play for a Gracies now as a guest player, because I moved out of London after my boyfriend passed away in 2021, and I play for my local cricket club, which is a Bromyard Town Cricket Club, and I wear a rainbow laces there, and it is so wonderful that even in a rural countryside, people know about the rainbow laces and the support to Stonewall. And I want to share one of from my last season, a funny incident happened to me. I was playing for Bromyard against a team called Ashwood Bank in a Worcester Premier Division 1. And I was batting, and I saw an opposition team. There were two players who were straight, heterosexual, and they were wearing rainbow laces. So I said thank you to them, and thank you for wearing the rainbow laces, and it means a lot to me.
Great support.
So one of the players' reply was, when I said, I really appreciate it, you're wearing rainbow laces. And he said, that's absolutely fine, brother. If I would really appreciate if you get out on the next ball.
So he still wanted to win, right?
Yeah, I would, and we did win.
Yeah.
We did win. And I was a part of the winning runs and stuff.
Yes.
But it tells you that how good cricket as a sport is. It's a gentleman's sport. There's no homophobia.
Let's talk about things have changed in India now, okay? Because it has changed. They have pride there now in India, which is new.
Yeah.
And they've allowed, my understanding is they allow same-sex marriages now in India. And that shows that a lot of you have fought with courage to begift those things. How did those change come about?
It's over the years. I left India in 2004, and I remember growing up, it was nearly impossible that you can be a proud gay man.
Right.
And now we are in a 2024 after 20 years. And over those years, there were a lot of LGBT organizations started, and all the support they provided. And then they started putting the cases in a Supreme Court in a High Court. High Court is like a state courts in India.
Yeah.
And it was won first. And so in a certain states, you were allowed to do gay marriages. But then somebody overturned it, and then they fought against and then they won the case again
Yes.
a decade ago, or probably more. in a Supreme Court, which is the main court of the India. And
So that took a lot of
actually,
that took a lot of courage for those in India to fight all the way to the highest court to get same-sex marriage approved. It took a lot of courage
Exactly.
from our brothers
Yeah.
there. It took a lot of courage, and our sisters there.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes a whole difference. And now, in a bigger cities, they have a big pride. I did not know until the skies, because as I have left India in 2004, I hadn't been following the news of India. But when I found out through Sky Sports that in my home city where I was born, they have a pride march there, and one day I would really love to go and see it. And it's
Excellent.
wonderful that they all can be proud of themselves and go and march about it.
So, Monish, how is your life today? Are you at happy and peace with yourself? Do you consider yourself to be peaceful and contented in your life?
I am very proud of myself. Over the years, yes, I have been through a lot, but that's a part and parcel of the life. There is a fighter inside me who always want to fight for everything, but sometimes I don't show it. And I'm glad I had gone through the coming out and dealing with the families in my younger stage of my life. And then I had a grief of losing my partner in late 2021, and now I'm on the verge of climbing again. Life is all about ups and downs, and I have had that, and I'm glad I remained calm and composed going through all this, and now I'm on the verge of climbing back again.
Oh, excellent. That's incredible. We always ask our people who are guests on my podcast, because you're going to have people from all walks of life, some gay, lesbian, transgender. You're going to have heterosexual allies that listen to this. What would you like your story to impact others once they heard your story and they're afraid of coming out, or they're not authentically who they are? What would your story have an impact on them? What would you like to see that do?
I mean, this is one of the reasons I do my interviews and my podcast, that to send out the support and the messages to all over the world, people maybe in similar circumstances what I was in. And just want to say to them that be proud of yourself. Look out for the support which I did not have. But the world has changed now. There's so many LGBT organizations out there. Just reach out to them,
Yes.
speak to them. They will provide you counseling. And you may have an initial struggle to deal with either your family or your work or within yourself. But there are support out there, and just ask for it. And I hope my interview or appearing on your podcast would help them. And if it helps one person, I'll be very proud of myself.
Absolutely. And I always say it's a community. They need to find a community. The community is out there. We are a community through our podcasts, through the book that I wrote, The Courage to Be Courageous. We're a community that really supports people being their authentic self. So I think that's a powerful comment, is to find a community, be proud of who you are, and work with the community who will embrace you for who you authentically are. And I think that's a really powerful comment. It's such a pleasure having you today. I thank you so much for being on the podcast with me. You have a very powerful story, very interesting story, and I want to thank you for being able to spend time with me on my podcast. And I look forward sometime, hopefully, of meeting you personally. And so you can explain a little bit more about what cricket really is. I know a little bit about it, but not very much. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It has been a great pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me as well. Thank you so much. And continue to live your authentic self, my friend. Take care now.
Thank you very much, God.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye.